Welcome to the Musar Torah podcast for Parshas Devarim. Join us as we explore the weekly Parsha, uncovering valuable insights and striving to become the best versions of ourselves through Musar teachings. Parshas Devarim opens with Moshe Rabbeinu gathering the entire nation to review the 40 years they had just lived through. He is not simply recounting history. He is asking an entire generation to sit with their own story, to look honestly at where they succeeded and where they stumbled before stepping into the land. It is fitting then that this week's Haftarah picks up the same thread from a different angle through the opening words of the Navi Yeshayah, where the prophet levels a painful charge against the Jewish people. Yada shor konehu v'chamur avus ba'alav Yisrael lo yada ami lo hisbonein. An ox knows its owner, a donkey its master's crib. Israel does not know my people. Take no thought. That's from Yeshayah, Parak Aleph, Pasuk Gimel. Rav Shlomo Zvolbi Zeichel Levracha draws to our attention something easy to rush past. Yeshayah does not open his entire sefer with a complaint against idolatry, theft, or any specific sin. He opens with an accusation about a missing mental habit. The people failed to take thought. They failed to engage in hisbonenus. According to Rav Volbi, the very fact that the Navi chose this as his opening line reveals how central hisbonenus is, not for scholars or mystics alone, but for every single person. This raises an obvious question. What exactly is hisbonenus, and why does the Navi treat its absence as the root failure of an entire nation? Rav Volbi in Alei Shor, Volume 1, page 89, brings an answer from the Sefer Derech Eitz Chaim, where the Ramchal unveils what he calls the secret of hisbonenus. The Ramchal compares the Torah to a fire and every word of the Torah to a coal. A coal left untouched will, at best, glow faintly. The moment someone fans that coal, though, it bursts into a real flame. The Torah works the same way. Each word sits there as a smoldering coal, holding within it the capacity to ignite, but only if a person takes the trouble to fan it through careful, sustained thought. Skip that step, and the coal stays dim. Engage that step, and a person can reach extraordinary levels of spiritual clarity. The Ramchal does not stop with a metaphor. He explains why Hashem designed the world in this way to begin with. Imagine for a moment a world where every truth was instantly obvious, where the moment we considered a mitzvah, we'd see with total clarity what a treasure it is, and the moment we considered a sin, we'd see with equal clarity what a disaster it is. In such a world, sin would essentially be impossible. The Yetzer Hara would have nothing to work with, because the truth would overwhelm us before we could even consider acting against it. Free will, in any meaningful sense, would disappear. To preserve our ability to choose, Hashem built a world where truth begins as a smoldering coal rather than a finished fire. The knowledge is there. The clarity is not handed to us automatically. Whether that coal becomes a blazing flame or stays a dim ember depends on what we choose to do with it. Once we understand this design, Rav Volbi explains we can appreciate why hisbonenus carries so much weight. Hisbonenus is the engine that drives a person's seichel to actually grasp what it already in some sense knows. It functions as our primary weapon in the ongoing struggle against the Yetzer Hara, because the more clearly someone understands their purpose, the less the Yetzer Hara has to work with. Practically speaking, hisbonenus means taking an idea, even when we think we already know, and sitting with it, focusing on it, turning it over with the explicit goal of letting it move from information into conviction, from a fact we could recite to a truth that actually shapes our choices. A Torah ideal we've heard 100 times remains a smoldering coal until we fan it ourselves. No one can do that fanning for us. Hisbonenus also turns inward. The same tool that ignites Torah ideas can illuminate our own lives. When someone steps back and objectively examines their own actions, their patterns, and their real goals, rather than the goals they assume they have, they can arrive at realizations capable of reshaping how they live. Self-knowledge, like Torah knowledge, rarely announces itself. It has to be drawn out through deliberate, honest reflection. Consider how the this might look in practice. Most of us know in some basic sense that every person we deal with carries infinite worth. We could say so without hesitation if asked. Yet that fact remains a smoldering coal until we actually sit with it, until we picture the specific person who frustrated us this week and ask ourselves honestly whether we treated them as someone of infinite worth or as an obstacle to get past. That 5 minutes of honest sitting is hisbonenus. It is the difference between a fact we hold and a truth that holds us. This week, let's all pick one idea we already know, a halacha, a value, a piece of musar we could recite without thinking, and actually fan it. Let's set aside even 5 minutes to sit with it, asking what it would look like if we actually lived as though we believed it, and where in our lives that coal has gone dim. Let's give ourselves the same honest look inward, asking not what we assume our motivations are, but what they actually are. Yeshayah did not open his prophecy by listing the nation's sins. He opened by naming the failure underneath all of them, people who stopped taking thought. Every word of Torah we've ever learned is still sitting there, waiting, holding its quiet potential like a coal beneath ash. Hashem built the world so that fire would not be automatic, so that the choice to ignite it would remain ours to make. Thank you for joining us for this episode of the Musar Torah podcast. May we all merit to fan the coals we've been given and to see them burn brightly. Have a good Shabbos.